everybody. In this video, I'm going to talk about Howard Thurman, his life, and his theology. Thurman was a modern Protestant who took mysticism very seriously. He didn't speak a lot about his own mystical experiences, but he did speak and write about other mystics and mysticism in general. He is often discussed in relation to his association with the civil rights movement, though he wasn't an activist himself, but he was very influential for others, most notably King, but there was others. But we are going to focus more on his mystical thought here and his life. So looking at his mysticism, I want to start with a quote. I've got the full quote on the screen. I'm just going to read part of it here. This is from an introductory sermon that Thurman gave in the year 1953. He provides a nice, succinct, and extremely helpful definition of mysticism for his listeners. He states that there is an all-pervasive spirit, time-transcendent, space-transcendent, that gathers up into itself the total gamut of human experience. And with that, let's look a little bit at his life. Thurman was born in Daytona Beach, Florida at the end of the 19th century. His father died when he was only 7 years old, and Thurman, along with two sisters, were raised by his mother, Alice, and his grandmother, Nancy Ambrose. And his grandmother in particular was very formative in the development of Thurman's Christian faith. He once said in an interview that I learned more, for instance, about the genius of the religion of Jesus from my grandmother than from all the men who ever taught me. Thurman was a bright child. His mother and grandmother encouraged him to get an education, despite the racist policies in Daytona, which barred many black children from attending high school. Thurman did attend Florida Baptist Academy in Jacksonville. After that, he headed up to Morehouse College in Atlanta for college. From there, he went to Rochester Theological Seminary in New York, where he trained for the ministry. Following his graduation from seminary, he took a call at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Oberlin, Ohio. So he was a Baptist minister, but in Ohio, Thurman spent a semester studying with the Quaker scholar of mysticism, Rufus Jones. So prior to this kind of educational experience, Thurman's mysticism was very much intuitive. All right, he didn't become a mystic during this time, but what he did gain from studying with Jones was a history and a language that would stay with him regarding mysticism. Thurman's study under Jones wasn't just purely academic, though. Thurman was very much impacted by this Quaker spirituality that he was learning from Jones during this time. In the fall of 1929, Thurman took a joint appointment at Morehouse College and Spelman College. While he was there in Atlanta, his first wife died, and he went on a trip to Europe to kind of deal with his grief. After he came back, he married somebody else, a woman named Sue Bailey, who was an author, lecturer, historian, and a civil rights advocate in the year 1932. Soon after that, Thurman joined the faculty at Howard University as a professor of Christian theology. In 1935, the Thurmans, along with another couple, became the delegation for a 6-month pilgrimage of friendship, it was called, in which they went to India, Burma, and Ceylon. This was a very transformative trip for the Thurmans, and one of the things that Thurman did was met with Gandhi. After his return to the United States, Thurman traveled around the country speaking about nonviolence as a resistance method for addressing racial injustice in the U.S. In turn, he inspired other people to meet with Gandhi, but to also learn more about nonviolent resistance, which of course became an important tool during the civil rights movement. In 1944, Thurman joined a small group of people to form an interracial and intercultural church in San Francisco called the Church for Fellowship of All People. So he was doing that when Boston University called and offered him the position of Dean of the Marsh Chapel and a professorship of spiritual resources and discipline. And so Thurman decided that he was going to take the position, and that he was also going to take the opportunity to replicate this fellowship church model in Boston. Thurman stayed in this position at Boston University from 1953 to 1963. After that, he retired. He moved back to San Francisco, where he continued to write and speak and direct the Howard Thurman Educational Trust, which he'd founded in 1965. He did that until his death in 1981. Throughout his life, Thurman wrote over 20 books plus, other articles. However, he did see himself more as a public speaker than a writer. And he was always a sought-after public speaker throughout his life. He was a private man. He really saw himself as an intellectual, not an activist. Yet he did mentor a number of leaders in the civil rights movement. What I think is so important about Thurman, one of the reasons I want you to read Thurman, is that in him you see, and we've seen this in other mystics, but I think it comes out really clearly, especially, in this modern American 20th century, is this deep, deep mystical spirituality and how that manifests itself in the world. His theology is influencing his actions and in turn influencing the actions of other people in very meaningful ways. All right, that is where I'm going to leave Thurman for now. I hope you enjoy the reading that I have from there. It ends in just a really amusing way, I think. So make sure you get to the end. All right, everybody. Thank you.